Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to hear a little bit about what InterviewMe is all about. We really appreciate your time. I think before I dive into what InterviewMe is all about, I think it's important to explain why we started InterviewMe. I've been very fortunate to hold the titles such as Managing Director and Sales Director at various companies, small and large. And at each of these companies, there was one consistent when it came to frustrations for me, and that was the recruitment process specifically. All of these previous companies had made use of various HR tools and applicant tracking systems, which were great. However, none of these seemed to cater to one of the most important functions of recruitment, which was the interview process itself, and more so, the initial screening and first interview process. So let me explain. More often than not, I would put out a job vacancy, so myself or my team, that I was trying to fill. And I'd get hundreds, if not thousands, of CVs for the vacancy. Now, with South Africa having the unemployment rate that it does, the issue is not the lack of talent, but rather that there is so much talent out there, and companies are struggling to find the right candidates purely due to the volumes of candidates that are applying for the roles. The issue here is that with all the CVs received, I often struggled to differentiate between all of the different CVs. So everyone had similar years of experience, similar qualifications. However, to determine whether a candidate would be able to do the job, a first interview or screening call would need to be conducted. Now, unfortunately, very often in these screening calls, within 2 minutes of the interview, I'd very quickly realize that the candidate wasn't a fit for whatever reason. However, out of courtesy, I would stay on these calls or interviews, ask additional questions, answer questions, which really just consumed huge amounts of time in my day, which, to be honest, I could be doing other things that added value to my business. I was convinced that there was another way to get to know the candidate behind the CV super fast without actually having to meet with them up front. And so I did a bit of research and I discovered this thing called one-way interviews, which was already massive in the US and Europe. However, nobody was doing this in South Africa, especially at the time. And this is where the idea of InterviewMe was born. I did lots of research, taking into consideration factors such as data costs, load shedding, user experience. All of these played a massive role in the way that we designed the InterviewMe platform. And this leads me on to what is InterviewMe. So we are a proudly South African one-way video interviewing platform, which we like to call Video Interview as a Service. We only launched towards the end of 2021 with just me, and we now have around 25 employees, just under 100 paying clients, and we represent some of the biggest brands in South Africa. InterviewMe is not an ATS, nor are we a recruitment agency. However, our platform can actually work quite well from an added value perspective. Now, essentially, InterviewMe is a software platform that conducts the initial screening or screening calls or interviews on your behalf. And yes, our software actually interviews the candidates for you. The purpose of our platform is not aimed at replacing in-person interviews. The human element in interviews is incredibly important. But what we are trying to do is help companies identify very quickly who they actually want to interview in person, and therefore resulting in a better quality of in-person interviews held, as the hiring company has a good idea of what that candidate is all about ahead of the actual interview. Our software allows you to build branded interviews that the candidates get to do in their own time, and you get to view these interviews in your own time and quickly decide who you want to actually interview in person. Candidates are now not just being judged purely on their CVs, as you're essentially giving the candidates, and everybody in that fact, the opportunity to be interviewed up front. But in addition to this, hiring companies are getting a real understanding about what the candidate is all about without actually physically having to do the interview. The candidates, which obviously results in candidates being able to do interviews in their own time, and you're able to view interviews in your own time. Candidates essentially what would take normally about 30 to 60 minutes in an initial screening call will now take 5 minutes. So you can almost interview up to 10 times more people in the same amount of time that it would take you to do one interview. InterviewMe has a number of really cool features which we would love to show you. However, one of our most popular features is in fact our scheduling tool that helps you facilitate the in-person interviews with candidates once you've viewed their one-way interviews. Essentially, our platform will allow you to schedule an in-person interview with a candidate at the click of a button. No need to try and coordinate each other's diaries with candidates anymore. This is a fully certified Google and Microsoft feature. InterviewMe is also fully white labeled, which means we can brand the software according to your branding completely. InterviewMe is also fully mobile friendly for both you and the candidate, and candidates are able to do their interviews from their mobile phones. All that we're asking everyone is to give us an opportunity to simply demo the platform to you. The proof is in the pudding, and we are convinced that once you have a demo of the platform, you'll see massive amounts of value. And in addition to this, we're happy to extend a 25% discount to everyone that has attended the HR Indaba. And our monthly subscriptions are all month to month, so we don't lock you into any contracts whatsoever, as we're confident that you won't want to leave anyway. Please visit InterviewMe.tech, where you'll find all our contact details. You're also able to schedule demos with us, and we've got a team of hungry business developers all waiting at our virtual booth, so please make sure that you visit. So thank you very much.